So tonight we have a 2013 Dodge Ram 1500 4x4, and it is sitting extremely low, as you can see. Looks like a low rider, but it's not supposed to be. This has the air suspension system and it has a problem. It was here back in January of 2018 for the first time with the suspension problem at that time. So we'll have a look at the history codes and what it's got in it now. So as I said, it was here back in January of 2018. This customer bought the vehicle used, and this was the first winter, and he had these codes: air leak during vent, ride height pressure sensor vent control, ride height air pump control, air suspension reverse valve control performance. It's been back every winter since then for suspension codes. I'm going to scroll forward until I find the next instance where it was here. Still in January of 18. So here it is again, and this was February 18. A whole bunch of codes related to the air suspension. Now I understand he took it to the dealer, and I don't know exactly what they did, but at that time there was a number of trucks in this area. It's very cold here in January and February, and they were all experiencing the same problem. My understanding is that they dried the system out somehow, and that supposedly fixed the problem, but obviously it hasn't. So here it is, November 10th of 19. Air leak during vent stored, ride height pressure sensor vent control. So we're going to scan it now and see what codes are present today. So I'm going to load this vehicle from history, and my scanner's been updated since I scanned it last time. So we'll do a network code scan and see what codes it's got in the air suspension system today. Ride height air pump control performance or incorrect operation, low air mass, ride height air pump control, ride height air pressure sensor, and unable to obtain desired ride height stored, ride height pressure sensor vent control, air suspension reverse valve, air alert leak during vent, and payload limit exceeded. Well, just a few codes related to the suspension system problems. And of course, SureTrack has no cases on this, not that I can see so far. I believe because it's geographic, in other words, applicable to cold climates like we have here. Well, I'm going to clear these codes out now that we've got a recording of them. And I got to turn the key on, engine off. So we're going to clear all codes, read by code scan. Got the key on, engine off, or the ready button active, engine not running. And then we'll see what codes come back in the air suspension system. Air suspension control module. Here we go. Air suspension control module. Let's read codes and see if we have anything active. Ride height air pump control performance incorrect. Low air mass stored. Well, if it's going to require me adding nitrogen to the system, I don't have the equipment to do that, so this could be a very short video. Let's have a look at what causes these two codes here. So having a look at that C1562 air pump control, there are no cases on it on Identifix. So there's only this diagnostic trouble code. I'm going to have a look at the other code too, which was C15D9. So we'll try a search for that one. C15D9. Low air mass. No cases on that either. So I'm going to have a brief look at these two problems and see if there's a common thread here. So the first step in this 15D9 says when the air suspension control module detects that the measured air mass is below the threshold, but then it starts out to say if there's any other DTCs present, repair them first before continuing with this diagnostic. So we'll go back to the first code. So it was a 1562-92. So here is the troublemaker chart for that. Performance or incorrect operation, overuse DTC. When the air suspension control module detects the air compressor relay has been energized for a time exceeding 5 minutes within the last 10 minutes. Well, how can it set that fault code right after clearing the code? If 15A01 is present also, perform the air suspension control module pre-diagnostic troubleshooting procedure before diagnosing any overuse DTCs. Record and erase. Is it active this time? I don't understand how it could be active. The vehicle didn't even run. But it is. Go to step 2. Using the wiring diagram schematic as a guide, inspect the wiring harness and connectors. Wiggle test the wiring harness and connectors while monitoring the scan tool data relative to this circuit. Look for data to change. Well, that's pretty vague. Now I'm going to do a little bit more research here. So now I cleared the codes right from the suspension control module rather than a network code clear. And the only code that comes back is this low air mass. Let's try it again. So now we're back to just diagnosing this. Like I said, I don't know how it could set that code for running too long when it never actually ran. So let's go back and see what 15D900 troubleshooting chart suggests. So here's the troublemaker chart for that 15D9-00. Turn the key on, erase the codes. Does it come back? Yes, go to step 2. Using the scan tool under miscellaneous functions before the set ride height level routine. Using the scan tool, select off-road 2. Well, let's have a look at that. Miscellaneous functions. What did they call this again? Set ride height level routine. Air spring circuit check, ride height readings, deflate to atmosphere, deflate to reservoir, set ride height level. This routine will level the air suspension system to a selected ride height. Please ensure level control is enabled and the height sensors are calibrated. Level control is not enabled. Please enable level control and try again. Okay. So I think I've got the ride height on. And the door closed now. Wouldn't allow it with the door open. Please enable level control and try again. There's disable level control, but there's no enable level control. At a loss. So right now it shows off-road 2. If I use the suspension control buttons, press it up once, it says ride height not permitted. If I press it a second time, I can get it to say off-road 2. I'm going to press down. Nothing changes. Pressing up now. Off-road 2, watch for clearance. But this display still says off-road 2. That's where I had it, and I'm going to try and activate that feature again. So we'll try this one more time. Set ride height level. Well, I'm not sure what's going on here. It doesn't want to work. Go back and check to see if we got any new codes with this Okay, so this code has come back again. Ride height air pump control component or system over temperature stored. 156298. Let's go back to that troubleshooting chart. Okay, so now we got a 156298. It says the air suspension system is temporarily disabled. Then it goes in here, it says, is 15D900 present? And the answer is yes. And it says go back and perform this DTC before continuing with this diagnostic. Oh, I can't. It won't let me. Perform any service bulletins that may apply. Well, let's have a look and see if there's any bulletins. Certainly didn't come up in the keyword search for 15D9. Well, using Identifix here, I went into front and rear suspension, and there's only 2 bulletins related to shock weeping conditions. I can't believe there's no cases on this problem. Well, this is quite confusing. I'm looking through the data list here, and there are no system messages on the dash, and it's not commanding any, as it says right here, which is very odd considering the thing is sitting on the ground. Rear height is negative 73 millimeters. Front height is negative 91 millimeters. The only thing that stands out here is compressor calculated temperature of 162 degrees. I mean, I just brought it in from outside and it's like -5 Celsius. So I don't think it's 167 degrees Celsius. But how does it come up with that calculated temperature? And that's changing actually. I think when it hits 180 is when it sets that over temperature code. So here it says it sets this condition when the air suspension control module detects air compressor has reached 180 Celsius and disables it till it reaches 130. We're going back to the data list. It hit 179, and now this is a calculated temperature. I wonder where it gets that from. Yet there's no messages on the dash. So I cleared the code one more time and rechecked, and that over temperature code is gone. But let's go back into the data list now and have a look at the calculated temperature. I don't hear the compressor running at all. There's the calculated temperature of 104, 105. And going down. Let's go back and have a look at this codes again and see if it's come back. No. This code will not clear. So I decided to try the SMAXI-Sys. Going to the chassis, going to the air suspension control module. Let's read the codes from this scan tool and see if it's any different. Same codes. Escape. Let's erase codes. Let's go back and see if they're still gone. Okay, so that didn't work. Well, let's go into special functions. This has the same list as Snap-on had. Height sensor check, set ride height level. Routine will level the air suspension system at a selected height. Please ensure the level control is enabled and the height sensors are calibrated. Level control has not been enabled. Please enable level control and retry. Okay, what am I doing wrong? So I'm just reading a little bit of the theory of operation of this system. It says here it will be auto-disabled when lifted on a frame hoist or when jacking one corner of the vehicle. It says it will not lower if any of the doors or liftgate is open, which is normal, or the engine is not running. The doors and liftgate status are ignored when using a scan tool. When the air suspension control module or height sensor is replaced, it will need to be initialized using a scan tool. So it really doesn't say anything about enabling the system. Manual control. An up and down switch is located on the center stack for driver control. When the driver presses the up and down switch to manually raise or lower the vehicle height, displays a vehicle up or down message icon with an LED indicator of the switch changes. The EVIC displays the current position of the vehicle when it's achieved. When lowering the vehicle, the front is always first to move. When raising the vehicle, the rear is always first to move. So I've even checked the fixed database through the IATN network, and there's virtually no complaints of problems with this thing. There's two 2014s. This one was leaning to one side, and this one was a compressor failure. But other than that, no help so far. Maybe I'll just try Google. Wow, this is interesting. I Googled Dodge Ram and that 1562 code, and I found a TSB. But it doesn't apparently apply to this because it's 15 and 16 model years. This is a 14, but who knows. 1562-98 is the code I have. No ride height change with the vehicle in real cold conditions, and in addition they may also have a malfunction indicator light. Upon further investigation we find the following diagnostic trouble codes. And yes, we've had all of these codes at one time or another. Verify all engine systems are functioning or as designed. Install a battery charger, and there's an update flash to the air suspension control module. Well, I'm sure that the dealer has done this, if it applies. I've got no way of telling. As I don't have YTech software yet, I stress yet, that's coming. Oh well. So it's just doing some research online and reading some forums here. There's a bunch of guys complaining about the system malfunctioning in cold weather. Wisconsin. This guy says pulling the 40 amp fuse once the system is back up and running again will keep it from going up and down after you shut it off. This guy had a new valve block, didn't fix it, then a new compressor, didn't fix it until it got cold again this winter. There's no real good diagnostics from Fiat Chrysler on the air suspension. You think? I thought I read somewhere the system is closed and filled with nitrogen, which tells me that the system isn't freezing. Yeah. Well, if I find anything earth-shattering, I'll share it with you guys. I read this somewhere too. The system is initially closed from the factory and filled with nitrogen. However, the system can take in outside air if it chooses to, likely because of a slow leak. Once it does take in outside air, you're in for continual grief in cold areas. It even has a dedicated filter to clean the air it takes in from outside. Mine was replaced as it was starting to get dirty. Had most everything replaced on my system. Right now I have a loaner truck, and as the truck is waiting for its third compressor. New compressor has changed design, they say. Maybe it will fix everything, they say. Nice and back-ordered, it seems to be as well. Trouble is, you fix it one winter and it fails again the next winter. So, somehow my SD card became corrupted and I managed to lose the last few slides or last few videos to this video series, which is unfortunate. I did manage to salvage some still images, so I've added those and summarized. To make a long story short, this thing has multiple leaks, usually from the rear airbags. They fail after several years, which is common and aggravated by cold weather. The system ingests air, which contains moisture, which causes components to freeze, and therefore the compressor runs too long, overheats the compressor. So this thing needs probably rear airbags and a compressor to start with, and cost of repairs is very high. So watch the last few remaining still shots. I've added text to them to make them understandable.